Hi guys, in this particular video we'll be discussing the daily Leetcode challenge for 2nd of January, and the problem's name is detect capital, and the problem states that we define the usage of capital in a word to be right when one of the following cases holds. So either all the letters in a particular word should be capital. For example, in this particular word we have all capital letters, or all the letters in a word should not be capital, so none of the letters of them should be capital. So for example, in this entire word all the letters are small cased, or only the first letter itself. So this is the way how we generally write names and stuff. So only the first letter is capitalized, just all of the letters are in lowercase itself. And if those patterns hold, then we return true, else we return false. Now this definitely is a very simple question. So for this particular question we'll be focusing more on the built-in functionalities, and also how to write a much cleaner code, and how to do it in a single iteration itself. So we could have easily done it in 3 iterations. We could have checked for pattern 1, then pattern 2, then pattern 3. If none of the pattern existed, then we could have returned 0. However, that code could have been lengthy, so we for that we would have 3 4 loops, or any loops for that matter, and then the code length would also have increased. So let's try doing it in a single loop. So firstly, let's take a variable. So my variable's name is capital. Right now what is capital is storing is that whether my zeroth character, or let's say the first character, so the character at the zeroth index, character at zeroth index, is it capital or not. So I've used a built-in function. So the function's name is upper. So what is upper does is that if we provide any character to this particular function, so let's say I provide it with the character C, so it will return me some value. Now that value would be 0 in case that particular letter is lowercase, or it will provide me with a non-zero value in case the particular letter that had been provided was uppercase. So the non-zero value could be anything. It could be 1, a 2, a 3, or 5, 25. We don't know what it will provide us, but that would be the case only if it is uppercase. So that's what I've done. I've checked if that particular value is not 0, then I can save 1 over here, else I'll have to save 0 over here. So with that, let's get started. So once the value for the 0th index is already stored, we'll start off from the first index. So first index technically is a special case for us, because first index has a breaking clause. Because what could happen is that if you had lowercase at the very at the 0th index, then there is no way you can have uppercase at the first index, because of number like a and a capital B is definitely not suitable, and it doesn't belongs to a pattern, right? Although a capital A followed by a small b would have belonged to the pattern, or a capital A and a capital B would have been a valid pattern, but a small letter followed by a capital letter is not a valid pattern. So that's what we are checking over here. If the current letter, if the current letter is in uppercase and the previous letter was not uppercase, then we can directly return 0. However, if that's not the case, then whatever the capital's value we are having at the first index, we'll be storing that into is capital. So now we have technically guaranteed that if we'll be having lowercase letters in a string, or all uppercase letters in a strings, so the letters, the remaining letters, so the letters from 2 to n minus 1 indexes would be lowercase only if the letter at the first index was also lowercase. So over here the possibility could have been that the character at the 0th index could have been uppercase or lowercase. It could have been a capital letter or a small letter. However, the second letter, by second letter what I mean is the character at the first index should definitely be small. So let's say it was a B, then I can have any number of characters and all of them should be small. Now if I encounter any letter that is capital, let's say I have a capital F over here, then I can simply return 0. The other pattern is that both of these characters, so the 0th character and the first character, both of them were uppercase. So I have a uppercase at 0th, and then I do have a uppercase at first index. So now every letter after this, these two letters, so every letter ranging from the index 2 to index n minus 1 also needs to be uppercase, because we cannot have a string like capital A, capital B, and a small c, right? So this is an invalid case. So now if we already have seen two capital letters, then also the remaining letters need to be uppercase only. So for example, this is a valid word. So with that in mind, what I've done is that if the current letter is not uppercase, but the previous letter was uppercase, then I can return a 0. So over here I've used XOR operation for this. So in case you don't know about XOR operand, so what it does is that it takes two values. So let's say A XOR B. It would return us 1 if and only if A and B are different. So let's say A is 0 and A is 1 and B is 0, then it will return me a 1. If A is 0 and B is 1, then also it will return me a 1. But if both of them are same, let's say 0 and 0, so it will return me a 0. Or let's say if they are 1 and 1, then it will return me a 1. So that's exactly what I want over here. Either both of these values should be uppercase, or both of these values should be lowercase. So with that, I've implemented that if both of these values are different, so the previous letters were lowercase and the current letter is uppercase, or if the previous letters were uppercase and the current letter is lowercase, then I'll return a 0. Else I'll just keep doing the loop over and over again until I reach the last element and the loop quits. Once the loop quits, I can simply return 1. So let's try this particular solution. Let's try submitting it. Cool. So you can see that the solution is submitted successfully. Also, I'd like to indicate one thing over here. You can see that it says that the time is 2 milliseconds. However, you should not focus on this, because the thing with Leetcode is that it tends to give different different runtimes for the similar solution. You can see I had posted a similar solution earlier, so it is exactly the same solution apart from the comments, of course. So with even with the same solution, I was getting a runtime of 0 millisecond, and which was beating 100% of the solutions. And now with the same solution, I'm getting a runtime of 2 milliseconds. So you should definitely not trust this, and you should just trust the algorithm you're following. Now I just resubmitted the solution again, and now it's beating all the 100% solutions again. So I guess that's it for the video. Thanks a lot, guys.